Hi everyone, good day. Welcome to Afala channel again. As usual, I'm accompanied by our friend Mr. Labo. Today, we're starting a new series called Socialpreneur 101. We're going to share experience on how to impact the society and build a business at the same time. Today, we have with us our esteemed guest, Nick Jeins. He's a sales trainer and coach from the UK. He has been responsible for the training and coaching of sales teams of 50 people or more in business to business selling for the last 25 plus years. These teams have been within a variety of industries, including personal and commercial finance, advertising, marketing, automotive, software as a service, IT, and real estate. Wow. His specialty is increasing the amount of revenue, clients, and overall growth within sales organizations. Nick currently lives in Malaysia, having returned from a 3-year absence due to COVID. And today, we're going to talk about how Nick does some of these things and how he can help organizations looking to grow their businesses. Welcome, Nick Jeins. How are you today, mate?
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on, Rosalind.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got a series of questions that we're going to ask you, Nick. So I hope you you will be answering our questions. And first questions. And Labo, if you got questions, you just ask anything here to Nick.
Sure.
And my first question is, right, this is something to do with our business, okay? We have problems to market what we do. We have tried social media, namely Facebook or YouTube, but the response is not that great. How can we improve our sales, Nick?
That's a really good question. Obviously, it's all about getting out there to the target audience. And I think social selling can be quite effective, only though if people are obviously looking for what you're trying to get them to look at. Yeah. So you've mentioned that you're using Facebook at the moment, but it hasn't been really that effective. But clearly there are quite a lot of other platforms on the social side of things that might be helpful to you. So the business side of things, which is where obviously professionals hang out a great deal, is LinkedIn. And that could be perhaps somewhere that you might want to have a look at in terms of your advertising or your marketing to get a sort of a better amount of people looking at you. You've got TikTok. You've got obviously Facebook, you've got Instagram. So there are a number of different social platforms, but I think it depends on who it is that you're looking to target. And I think once you've identified that market, that will probably lead you to the best place in terms of the sort of the marketing.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, which comes to the next question. We would really like to target a certain market, okay? For example, those can use smartphones. Now, the reason is because we have been involved in donation business. And, if you go to dlmtu.com, you can see that we are actually trying to help certain people in this country. And it's actually a business. It's not an NGO. So what we would like to do is to target those people who's actually religious when they come to donation, because in this country, a lot of people donate not because of material expectations. So how do you think we can approach these groups, Nick?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a really good question, because if you're looking to identify a particular target, and that is perhaps groups of religious people that would have smartphones, I would imagine that's going to identify many, many people. Now, if you're looking to target people in Malaysia specifically, then perhaps identify religious groups that you'd like to target. I would imagine from assumption that you're going to have a huge amount of those people that would have the smartphones, and therefore those are the target people that you're looking to approach. Once I think you've identified that target or those groups of targets, I think then what you can do is to consider making approaches to them, for them to understand exactly what it is that you do, why you're doing it, and how perhaps they might be interested to assist you in really what you're looking to achieve.
Okay, right. So the only trouble that we think is is like when we try to approach people. I'm not you're an expert in this cold calling thing, right? And the way your approach is probably different than mine. I've done cold calling before, okay, but I think based on my experience before, I think the way I approach people on cold calling is pretty much like product pusher. Okay, and then we've got scripts that we use and stuff like that. I mean, I wasn't happy, but I did it. But what is your take on that one? Is it the right way to approach cold calling?
Well, cold calling, I think by the very nature of its name, is a call that's cold to somebody that is not expecting your call. And the real art of the cold call is to make it almost sound like a warm call to somebody that's never spoken to you, but they're happy to accept your call. So what I'll do, Rosalind, let me ask you, perhaps, if you've made cold calls in the past, are you able to give me a little demonstration or perhaps a sort of snippet of the kind of things that you might say to somebody when they pick the phone up?
Okay, so I can try to do that. Like I'll just say, hi, I'm Roslan. I'm from DLM. I would like to actually introduce our company to you and what we've done before. Have you got time to speak to me? And
okay,
assuming that he got the time. Okay, so then he'll just say, I'm sorry, we don't actually have time, but can you talk to somebody else in our organization? I'll pass you to somebody else. So I'll just have to wait for them to pass to somebody else. And that somebody else will just ask you, what do you do again? That kind of thing. And I'll have to explain that we actually help people to, to donate money to the poor. And if we do that, they'll just say, we're not interested. And some of them, hang up the phone. So how do I go about, handling that? I mean, the rejection is high, the rejection rate is high, and I don't have time to actually explain the whole thing. So how do we go about that?
Sure, I understand that, because obviously you're getting through and they're saying, look, I'm too busy, or if I'm not too busy, I'm not interested. And they either put the phone down or they don't give you a decent reason to sort of say why they're not interested. So the first question I'll ask you is, who is it that you're targeting to speak to? Do they have a particular role or a status?
Yes, I actually want to speak to the maybe the they call it the committee president. There's a committee for these religious groups, for example, or sometimes it's like deputy of of that position, or even one of the committee members. So that's where I feel like they kind of say that they're busy and they're not available and stuff like that. So I think the purpose of my cold calling is to actually secure an appointment. So main thing is I'm trying to make an appointment to see them. Some of them actually do accept it, but the rate of accepting is probably 1 in 10. Okay.
So if you speak to 10 people, you'll get one person who say, yes, we're happy to make a donation.
Yes, right. Yeah. And that's not closing yet,
No, indeed.
So it's actually,
the whole art of cold calling is a whole sort of chapter in its own right. It's a whole book, actually, full of many chapters, because there are lots of different methods in order to try and make it effective and to work. Yeah. So if we backtrack a little bit, and I'll go through some of the basics that might help. Yeah. The first thing that we want to do is to identify the prospect or the person that we want to speak to. Once we've identified that individual, what we need to find out is how we're going to contact them. Obviously, we're talking about cold calling, so that would mean either you have their mobile or their cell number, so you can speak to them direct. They'll pick up their mobile or cell phone and answer it, and it's you on the end. Or you might have to go through perhaps a switchboard or a receptionist that would field that call before they then pass you on to the prospect. So generally, which one of those do you tend to sort of, which one of those is the most frequent, would you say, Rosalind?
Which one is most frequent in terms of answering the call?
So would you go through to a sort of a switchboard receptionist, or would it be direct on the cell phone or the mobile phone to the person that you want to speak?
It's actually direct from the mobile phone, which I've obtained from the Facebook.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that they leave their phones there, I mean, they're ready to answer the call, don't they? But
that's a really good, So yeah, I mean, that's a direct thing. So what we're doing, we're we're dialing, and the prospect is picking up the call, and you're speaking to them immediately. So what we need to do is to get their attention in a respectful, professional manner that lets them understand that we're calling with something that perhaps might be of interest to them. And maybe, and this is just off the top of my head, but maybe a different approach is to say, I don't know what the name of the person is. Let's just say his name is Bob Smith, just for argument's sake. So, hello, this is Bob Smith. Oh, Bob, hi, my name is Nick. Listen, I know that you're a very busy man, but I've got something I would like to speak to you about that could well be of interest to you. Would you let me have 30 seconds to be able to say what I need to say to you? And they're going to say one of two things. They're either going to say, what's this about? Or actually, no, I'm too busy. If they're too busy, that's fine. Say, look, when would be perhaps a better time to give you a call? Because this might be of interest to you. At which point they'll either give you a better time that you can call them back, or then again, we'll say, look, what's this about? Well, Bob, I understand you probably get lots of calls like this on a fairly frequent basis, but let me have 30 seconds. I'll tell you the reason for the call. And then if at the end of that, you don't wish to take that any further, we can end the call right there. Do you think that's fair? And then Bob is going to say, okay, carry on. Tell me what you're here for. Tell me what you're calling for. Or he'll say, look, I'm just not interested. But he'll say he's not interested when he has no idea the reason why you're calling. So most people have this in the back of their head. Oh, I wonder what this might be about, this call. Maybe I should listen to Rosalind and listen to his 30 seconds first and then make a judgment. But what you've done is you've asked for permission to have 30 seconds of his time. And then if at the end of that 30 seconds, he's not interested any further, he can end the call and you can walk away. But at least you've had a chance for him to listen to the reason why you're calling. What do you think to that?
It's interesting that the fact that you give an option to them to actually feel, in power, and like they are able to, make decision. So
Exactly. That's what these people do. They're decision makers. So give them that decision. Allow them to understand that you're calling for a reason, but you haven't mentioned it yet. But after 30 seconds, they will understand. So you're quite correct. Give them that ability to make the choice. Because the vast majority of people or cold calls that he might get or other people will get will be blah, 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 blah. And they don't even have a chance to speak to them.
That's right.
They go, it's another phone call. And they'll just put the phone down or hang up, not interested. Because you've given them a little bit too much too soon. So that's a really effective way of getting somebody's attention. And then what we have to do is to work on what we say that they're going to hear, that they're going to turn around and say, well, I am quite interested in that, so tell me more. Or they're going to say, look, yeah, I appreciate that, but it's not for us, but thanks for your time. But at least it's a far more positive thing than just and hanging up, which happens all the time.
You're right. That's very interesting. Labo, do you have any question you want to ask?
Yeah, I just want to ask if you are it's also when you are doing a marketing, you need some budget for that thing. Should we allocate based on our what do you call how much we can spend for that things? Like we can spend for social media. Is it we should spend on marketing, spend expenses on marketing, or we just using the organic method?
Okay, so that question will encompass many different sort of facets of the answer, which I'll try to give. What you're basically asking me is, should you allocate a budget for social media marketing, or should you just let things grow organically without actually throwing money at it? So my response would be this. Firstly, I think a lot of people feel that if they build it, customers will come and flock to it. Well, that doesn't happen, as I'm sure you found out. Unless you've got a fantastic product that people know about, they're not going to know that you're out there. So websites, for example, or landing pages, if you imagine that you go into a dental surgery or a doctor's surgery and you're in the waiting room and there's lots and lots of magazines on the table, and within those magazines there's lots and lots of articles and adverts, and your website or your landing page is one of those many thousands of adverts within all of those magazines. So if people are thumbing through them all, they won't find you. So how do they find you? Well, we can do, obviously, search engine optimization, and that's something that's going to cost money because, of course, you need to be at the top. But for something in terms of what you're doing, would it be effective? Probably not, in fairness. So what I would say is to start off with is to consider one target market, and then to perhaps, if you want to spend any money to attract people from that one target market, that's what I would call a single bullet approach. The alternative to that is a shotgun approach, which means that you've got many things flying out there, but do they necessarily hit the target? Maybe not, but one shot might. And then start that way. So start with one target market and try to identify who or what within that market is, or who the person that you want to speak to is, or who it's likely to be that you should speak to, and go for that. Now, you can perhaps do that on social media for free. There are a number of ways of doing it. So, for example, on LinkedIn, you can put an advert in, and you can put people's names in that perhaps are representative of certain organizations and tag them. And that way they get to see it directly. They may or they might not be interested. But if you spend money on something in Facebook, if they don't come across it, if it's sort of in their feed of something else that's not related to what they're doing, they just might sort of scroll on by, and it might be a waste of money. So a long answer to a very good question. But the short answer is, I think what you should do is to consider one market first and then target that and then see which is the best results that you get.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks.
Very good. I think I understand the way that you actually approach your customers now. So you're suggesting that we should focus on one target market. So that's what I'm going to do after this. We hope that the audience is actually understanding all these conversations that we have. And I think for the short time that we have, I believe that we've learned a lot from Nick. Thank you so much, Nick, for the answers they've given.
My pleasure.
We also understand that, we have to identify the person, the decision maker within that groups of the target market. So something like we have to think about. We have never thought about that along this line. We just make a random phone calls, and we never think about who is actually the decision maker behind the organizations. So that's interesting. I hope that we can actually continue these sessions, Nick, in the future. We look forward to receiving you and with your advice. I hope a lot of audience that can gain a lot of benefits from Nick Jeins. And Nick, can you tell us where about you are in Malaysia?
Yes, I'm in Subang Jaya at the moment, enjoying the lovely weather here. It's always such a nice place to be. Obviously, I come from the UK, and somebody was telling me I think it was 5 degrees yesterday. So I'm quite happy to be here.
That's cold. But isn't it hot for you here? Isn't it hot?
No, I love this heat. This is the kind of heat that I'm meant to live in, Rosalind. It's the place that I should.
Fantastic. Welcome to Malaysia. I mean, you've been here for years, haven't you? You're probably familiar with our culture now, haven't we? We've got 3 major races here: the Malays, the Chinese, and the Indians. We are actually have fantastic food selections.
Absolutely, that's one of my favorite things.
That's another thing good about Malaysia. Right. Okay. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today in our session, and we look forward to receiving you again. And Nick, thank you for coming to our program. We'll be in touch again. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roslan.
Thank you.